parties they go to.
One of our best friends' sons has an egg allergy, and if it sneaks into like batter or something every once in a while, he just yerps all over dinner tables and shit.
Go ahead, Jordan. Oh, see, she did, but she's been over that for over a year now. The good thing is it's just skin. It's like rat. It's not, I'm not worried about anaphylactic, I'm not worried about death.
Yeah, but it is an irritant.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah. So like, they go and they have pizza or something. She can't. You got to bring her own stuff. So next week, hopefully. The thing is, though, I got these challenges, these dairy challenges, because we did one for the eggs. It's wild. Something's going on in this world, because when I grew up, none of this shit existed. Like, sure, there was the weirdo with the peanut allergy, but but like this stuff did not happen. You know what I mean? This stuff didn't happen. And now I got a lot of friends, kids, and so many of them are like, oh, my kid's allergic to this. My kid's allergic to this. This wasn't when I grew up.
I think it's soft parents.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
that's just my guess. So from what I'm sounding, N equals 1 here for me, but I'm only hearing it from you, so it all makes sense.
Furthest thing from that, brother. Listen, I told my wife, I was like, I'm doing the challenge at home. She's like, what? Like, I'm doing the challenge. I can run this challenge. Because you got to go into the allergist and sit in there for like 3.5 hours. It's crazy. I was like,
she just eats like a slice of pizza?
Exactly. But over time. So like a little bit, and then you wait, and then a little bit, and then you wait. So I was like, let me do this. Mind you, I've been sneaking dairy to her for like 8 months now. But
you're just edging cheese.
But yeah, but like small amounts. She knows. But that's different than like a legitimate, like full slice of American cheese or something like that. Yeah. So I'm hoping, man, if she passes, I'm taking her somewhere to get ice cream, and she'll have, the thing, she'll have no idea, right? She'll have no clue that like now she's not allergic. She'll never remember this. It'll be a pretty good moment for me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. It's probably really annoying for you guys.
That's exactly right, dude. Also, I feel bad I'm telling you, you have a kid that, she's 3 in March, but a kid that I pick her up from daycare, and she looks at me and she's like, Daddy, I couldn't have any of the cupcakes today. My teachers told me. I'm telling you right now, that'll hurt your heart, brother.
That sucks. You just want to go out and find like whatever snack that fits that profile, and you're just like, you can have as many of these as you want.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it sucks, man. Hey, what's going on, guys? Enough about me. Nobody cares. But we had to conclude this conversation. It is done. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA strategy show, hanging out on a Monday morning. A little 11-game action today.
Ugh.
Yeah, big slate. They chopped off one game. When I looked at the schedule, yes, I saw 12, but I didn't look at the times. So then this morning I was like, oh, maybe it's 9. Like, oh, wait.
I was hoping for 10.
Yeah, sure. But you get my point. Oh my God.
Sure.
They took one off. It's 11 games. But the crazy thing is, if you just take a peek at this, there are 4 teams on the second leg of a back-to-back, and then 4 teams on the front end of a back-to-back, the Celtics being one of them. So, look, I don't know how any of this, like the Lakers are another one that are on the front end of a back-to-back. There's not really too much that we can do about that right now, Josh, because if they do rest players, we don't know if it's going to be today or tomorrow. But yeah, Thunder, Grizzlies, Suns, Magic on the second end of a back-to-back, Celtics, Jazz, Knicks, and Lakers all on the front end. So that's 8 teams today.
It's not a great slate, if I'm being honest. It wasn't fun to break down earlier. It'll be way more fun to break it down with you, obviously. But we're up against it for like a good, like we have value right now that shouldn't exist on a slate this big. Like there's no reason that Peyton Watson should be 17% owned on an 11-game slate. Now, I don't think he's going to be even remotely close to that. But it's wild that exists out of the gate with the amount of different plays that we have today. So it's kind of gross. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of gross. Excited to talk about it. Let's dive into it, brother. We got 11 games. By the way, before we do, take a single second, atone for your sins here on the NBA Strategy Show. Subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 100K. And remember, if you're listening or watching after the fact, always leave a comment down below. We read them all. We respond to them. And of course, if you want to listen in podcast form, right? Maybe you don't have YouTube Premium, want to close your phone, you got stuff to do. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is you want to listen, we got you covered. There's someone photoshopped me into a picture yesterday that was really good. It was saying atone for your sins.
Were
And
you
it looked,
were you there with Oscar the Grouch too?
yeah. Jordan can throw it on the screen. He's got it from yesterday. It was really
Not
good,
that one.
man. I was cracking up. I mean, it's just straight like a, desert wandering cult leader. So yeah, one of those. Pretty good stuff though. But yeah, if you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way for us. And we appreciate you guys very much for that. Let's talk about the Knicks and the Charlotte Hornets. All right. So here's a significant one because Knicks 8-point favorites against the Hornets team, by the way, that look, we've seen a lot of exposure go to the Hornets and a lot of ownership go to the Hornets recently, but we've also seen a lot of ownership and a lot of exposure go to teams playing against the Hornets recently as well. Now you've got no Julius Randle for this one with a dislocated shoulder. Probably the best place to start is because Hartenstein's back now, but how do we approach this Knicks team now with Julius Randle off the floor? Because that's a pretty big development after that shoulder injury.
Yeah, so there's two people that directly benefit right out of the gate. Obviously, Jalen Brunson is going to just get all sorts of additional touches, whatever he sort of wants. We're going to get an increased usage. We're going to get an increase to an assist rate. I got him up at 33% usage, 40% assist rate for this matchup. He runs the show now with Julius Randle not around. Josh Hart has played more minutes with Julius Randle off the floor by like 200 than any other player on the Knicks. He's the next guy up. I put him in for 34 minutes. We have him in for 34 minutes. 23% owned at this moment. Now only 15% optimal. I have 18% of him. He's just a guy that's getting a big increase in his role. So to me, those are the first two guys you want to look at. Then you get into like the value plays. Quentin Grimes probably plays around 24 minutes. He's 3,700 shooting guard, small forward eligible. Has been better as of late, 0.9 fantasy points per minute. That is not what he normally is. He's more of a 0.75 guy. He's a value play that we're looking at to start the day. Now we have him aggressively negatively leveraged, but if people are already going to be playing Peyton Watson, I will happily eat the Quentin Grimes chalk for today. But he is a pretty sizable negative leverage option in our boom bust tool to start. After that, there's not a lot for me. Anunoby's sort of already at the price you would expect. Maybe this is what unlocks OG Anunoby offensively for the Knicks. He wanted to get traded to a team that would give him more looks. He shoots less now than he did when he was on Toronto. Maybe removing Randle lets Anunoby get his usage rate to a more interesting spot for him. DiVincenzo certainly gets a couple extra opportunities. I don't find Hartenstein to be all that interesting. Neither do we. 0.6 optimal rate. You'll see Miles McBride get a couple extra minutes. I don't think he's going to play enough to matter. I think the priorities here are Brunson, Hart, and Grimes, and to a lesser extent, Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, you look at Brunson this season with Randle, Quickly, and Barrett off the floor, and he has a 34% assist rate, a 32% usage rate. I mean, these are just really good numbers, and 1.35 fantasy points per DraftKings points per minute. Now, that's only in 87 minutes. If you just took Randle off the floor, though, those numbers still look really good. If you just took Randle off.
The assist prop on Jalen Brunson right now, heavy juice to the over 7.5. So there's something in his ball handling, too, that needs to get bumped because that's where the market is going, at least as of right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, Randle's not a bad passing, big.
No, not at all.
But this team, I mean, look, when it all comes down to it, you're also talking about not just the fact that Randle's off the floor, but also this is just a bad Charlotte Hornets team. Like,
yes,
understandably, the total's only what 222.5, I think it is, right? Yeah. And Charlotte is 19th, I think, in pace on the season. Yeah, 19th in pace, but at the same time, they're dead last in defensive rating, so it kind of balances out.
God, I hate this Charlotte team so much. I'm so happy. Like, I love that they're shitty so that I don't have to watch them. Otherwise, they would be like the first team I put on every single day since they're generally a 7 o'clock start, but I'm blacked out to them, so I get lucky. There's no ownership coming in here. 2% to Bridges and Nick Richards is the high mark. I believe LaMelo is questionable. Like,
He
The
is.
highest optimal rate is 6% to Miles Bridges. The Charlotte implied total is terrible. I got 2 shares of Miles Bridges, and that's it. Maybe something breaks with their news. Maybe LaMelo ends up out and things look a little bit different, but I think it's pretty easy to just draw a line through Charlotte. Knicks are second slowest in the league. They're the 6th best defense. If you're getting a slow team that's also good defensively, it's not going to be an easy night for you, like DFS wise. So I don't have anything else to add for Charlotte. I see them as mostly unplayable.
If LaMelo's out, do we have to go back to Ish Smith? I mean, look,
Yeah.
if nothing else, the dude shot 0 for 5, scored 0 points last game, and still had 24 fantasy points in 29 minutes, right? Like he still had a 12 assist game, played 29. Look, PJ Washington off the bench went nuts. I don't know if you saw any of that game, but they were down by like 600 points at halftime and started creeping back. PJ Washington had a monster game off the bench. Bridges was good. Richards was good. Most of that team ended up actually being really good from a DFS perspective.
Yeah.
But also it was a different game. So if LaMelo sits, I think that would probably open some things up, despite it being a slow paced, good defensive team in the Knicks.
We'll certainly be looking at Ish Smith, Nick Smith, PJ Washington usage bump, Brandon Miller usage bump. Charlotte will be viable at that point instead of not viable like they are right now.
They're not going to be at the top.
No.
And that was a smaller slate for sure. But they'll be in play if nothing else.
I assume they're the least owned team right now. Let me look. Phoenix has 5% aggregate ownership. Charlotte has 6. OKC has 9. They're the only teams with single digits.
Phoenix playing their second of a back-to-back too. Clippers, Cleveland, 225.5 total here. Mobley's expected back. Going to be limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been out for what, like almost 2 months at this point?
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. They've been they're an interesting team on off with that different combination. They're a team that needs to make a trade. I thought it was going to be Donovan Mitchell getting shipped out. Maybe it still is. I don't know. I don't know what they do.
That team is built so strangely.
Well, it is just weird. Like Garland became so much better than they expected, but like he doesn't fit with Mitchell. I don't mind the 2 bigs, but like I also think that has a ceiling. They need to they need to turn those 2, like 2 of those 4 into like a wing and a lesser version of one of those centers.
Well, I mean, Garland's development and kind of evolution was, you would think it's one of the reasons they got rid of Sexton, right?
Who looks great right now too.
Yo, how about, he plays like 15 minutes and then comes out and just bends the Hornets over last game, dude. You can't, you mentioned it on Thursday. You just can't, getting that dude right is so impossible right now. I have no clue.
I hate it so much. It's so frustrating. There are a couple guys in the league that it's just you never have confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah,
or that's like your dude. Yeah, Dinwiddie. Like I don't get that dude right ever. You know who I didn't get right on Friday? Luka Doncic. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't help that pre-lock I can tell Eric that he's gonna score 100 fantasy points and then he does it.
Did you zero him out?
No, not on purpose.
No, I'm saying, were you zeroed out by the time it locked?
I think so. It was either 0 or like 4%. Like it was
after some late swaps.
I'm almost positive it was 0, but I don't know if because that game locked first. I had 0. Every once in a while, like you late swap back into like 2 or 3 shares. That's what I mean. But no, I had 0.
Tough. That's tough. What about Mason Plumlee today? We got 11% going to Plumlee. As news breaks, and I assume on an 11-game slate, a lot of the ownership we're seeing right now could look a whole lot different, but actually seemed a little bit high to me against this Cleveland team. 4,300. Chances are he plays like 22 minutes or something like that.
Who?
Mason Plumlee.
Oh, yeah. I got him in for 21. That's what he's averaging in the starts since Zubats is out. Oddly enough, so is Daniel Tice. Take that for what it's worth. But I don't think you're really paying. The problem is Plumlee's like a slightly better per minute dude. So like it really blocks you out to ever getting to Tice, but 11% ownership for Plumlee. There's certainly minutes upside here. And against Cleveland, you lean a little bit more towards the bigs. He just looks like a totally fine option. I think the best option you can get to here is Kawhi Leonard, 8,200, small forward, power forward. Been playing really well, plays big minutes. We got him in for 36. I got him in for 36. He's a 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy with an MPE. That's really like all I need to see. His price tag just doesn't match like what you think his name's reputation brings, which is always interesting. But if he's 7% owned, I like him in GPPs. I don't really care at all about anything else here for the Clippers.
So I was going to say, there's not a ton that stands out. On the other side for Cleveland, you have Mobley expected back, but at the same time, he's going to be limited, low 20s. It was like arthroscopic surgery on his knee. I can't imagine that he's going to be, ramped up, and they already said
No.
he's going to be limited. So, I don't know. What does that do for, $7,700 Jared Allen? Donovan Mitchell's almost 10K now. The Cleveland Cavs don't look all that good. This game in general doesn't look all that good compared to the 10 other games that we get to talk about today.
Highest owned dude is 9% to Jared Allen, which honestly feels a little high for what this slate is. He just happens to be a 1.4 DraftKings points per minute over the last 30 days. So don't think that's going to continue. We have Max Strus at 10% optimal, which must just be a function of the slate. I have a share of LeVert, a share of Mitchell, and a share of Allen. We have single-digit optimal rates to everybody for Cleveland. This is just not a place that you want to be for DFS today. Now with 11 games, it's just like, again, you could always play Donovan Mitchell. You can pretty much always play any starter on any team. I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, well, you might not have a ton to add to New Orleans either. When you were talking about lowest aggregate ownership, I thought you might have said the New Orleans Pelicans. Only because, I hadn't looked at it yet. I'm saying just looking at this team when they're, largely healthy, where you've got McCollum, Zion, Ingram, all of these guys, Jonas Valanciunas, all of them in that like 65 to 75K price range, going up against Boston on the road. If there was, not to say you ever just like X a team out, but if there was ever a spot where you're like, hey, I'm perfectly fine not really getting to the New Orleans Pelicans or to a team, this definitely feels like the spot. Plus, Boston coming off of a pretty embarrassing loss last time out. That was one of those games where you look at it and you go, all right, yeah, I understand they were facing a pretty good Clippers team. They got trashed at home in that game, dude.
They got beat up pretty aggressively. It was not good.
It was actually never competitive.
No. And this one's not going to be competitive in terms of it working its way into my lineup. Got a couple shares of Brandon Ingram. Highest owned guy is 8% ownership to Larry Nance, $3,900 center who keeps starting the second half over Joe Val. Highest optimal rate is 5% to Zion. So I will say it like I'll say it for a bunch of teams today. If you want to play Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, or Zion Williamson, those dudes can be in your lineups. I will probably have 0 of the Pelicans. I have just a small amount of Brandon Ingram and nothing else. This is a very difficult team to get to against the number 3 defense and number 25 team in pace.
I will say, though, Boston's kind of interesting today because you could see a scenario where you have no Porzingis. Al Horford's on the front end of a back-to-back, so who knows what happens there. And then Luke Cornett's also doubtful to play. So a large chunk of that front court could be missing from tonight's game.
Yeah, there's basically nothing that we can say to break down the relationship between Porzingis, Horford, Cornette, and then like Neemias Queta as like the fourth dude who could end up being the starter depending on how this breaks, or play 0 minutes. The easier thing to say is that White, Brown, Tatum, Holiday, all very uninteresting options. We've got Holiday as a pretty like solid enough leverage option. He gets to 10% optimal on the dot. We're just seeing really high optimal rates for these mid-tier price tags. If you have an MPE and you're around like 6K and you play 30 minutes, you're probably a positively leveraged dude in our model right now. These guys are all 5% owned. They all look the same like they do every other day. If you want Brown, Tatum, Holiday, White, go for it. The news that breaks, whether we get Porzingis in or out, assuming we don't get Cornette, whether we get Horford in or out, The only interesting thing that will exist for Boston today is what is happening with their center rotation. And we are not even remotely close to the time where we'll figure that out.
No, we're not. But that could have a massive impact on this slate. Like if all three of, I don't know. I can't help but think that I can't help but think that you would say, all right, Horford, just play this one and rest tomorrow if Porzingis and Kornet are both out.
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Like 22 minutes or something out of Neemias Queta is like, it's going to be pretty good. He's a 1.05 fantasy point per minute guy. We're seeing weird people get value and ownership so far today. He's 3,600. He's like 23 fantasy point projection for him is 6.4x his salary. That's probably like the second best value play on the slate. You don't even need him to start necessarily.
Yeah, that's true. You probably don't. At that price point, you probably
don't. If you think Horford is going to play 30, like even at 18, he's going to be sneaky. And all it takes is one or two fouls out of Al Horford for him to have to play more.
Man, Holiday's taken a bit of a hit this year from a fantasy perspective, though. I mean, I suppose it's to be expected. Not to say that he wasn't playing alongside Giannis last year, and Middleton was. Had some extended absences last season.
Yeah, he played like half the year.
Yeah, so there's that. But I mean, last season he had what 29 games with. I'm just using this kind of as an arbitrary number, but 29 games with 40 plus DraftKings points. That was over 40% of his games. This year he has 8. Under 20% of his games has he gone north of 40. So I'm not saying he can't do it because he obviously can. But
it's just not necessary.
It's not necessary. And also I get that he's also cheaper than he would have been last year. He's 6,100, but
yeah, the price tag has definitely changed.
It's almost, it's just one of those teams where like you can't go into it ever expecting anything. You just have to kind of hope that he catches the hot hand one day.
Yep. That's all you can do. Same for Derek White, same for Jaylen Brown. Like it's just your hope. One of those dudes is going to take over. You just hope you get the right one.
Right. And when they don't, like Holiday's live for 25 fantasy points.
Yeah, you're praying for defensive stats at that point.
That's it. Yeah. Anything else for this game?
Mm-mm.
All right. Shall we talk Utah and Brooklyn? This is currently a pick 'em.
Yes, we should.
All right. Well, man, Kelly Olynyk.
I hate this Jazz team.
See, this is the problem with Colin Sexton, though. I'm going to tell you right now, Josh. The problem with Colin Sexton, outside of what you and I discussed to start the show, is that after the really bad games where he plays like, what did he play? 17 minutes that one game and 24 and 24 there. The price point doesn't really come down all that much. Matter of fact, he played 17 minutes with 6,600. The very next game, he shot up to 7K. I get that he was facing
35 minutes.
Yeah, I get, but I'm saying before he even played those 35 minutes. And I get it was against Charlotte. This one's against Brooklyn. He's 6,900. So you're never really seeing that price in flux based on how he plays, because it's not like he goes on a really bad stretch and then goes on a Damian Lillard type heater. It's just every other game. So you never get the price point to really match the previous production. And at this point, he's almost 7K. You're going, all right, well, what do I do with this guy?
Basically nothing today. Like if you play him, you play him. 6% owned, 5% optimal. We only have one guy double digit in ownership. That is 4K Kelly Olynyk. That's not going to exist by the time we get to the end of today. But he is a value play to start the day. We have Chris Dunn 8.3% to be optimal in 19 minutes. I'm starting to think that we didn't include all the games today. Like you're not like by the end of today, we're hoping to not be playing anybody like Chris Dunn, just 20-minute a game dudes. We just assume that we get real value that's actually playing as the day goes on. The guy that you want in this one is going to be Lauri Markkanen, 8,200, small forward, power forward. He's 5% optimal, 5% owned. But like if you're going to get to something from Utah, you want it to be the best talent on the floor, and that's going to be Markkanen. But I don't really see any priorities. Like I said, Chris Dunn, 8.3% optimal. That's the highest optimal rate we have for anybody on Utah. we're not really creating any sort of like giant leverage other than Jordan Clarkson, 6,300, 2% owned. If you want to roster Jordan Clarkson, that's fine. There's just going to be like 50 different versions of him across the 22 teams that play on today's slate. So I don't find Utah to be all that interesting because I just don't trust anybody on the team.
Well, guess who's coming back for Brooklyn?
Our boy.
Old Benjamin Simmons. Yeah,
How quickly did you get tickets yet? You can get to Brooklyn pretty quick.
can't wait to watch him play 12 minutes before tweaking his back. Can't wait.
This whole team is getting owned except for him, by the way.
I know. Well, Utah, 22nd in defensive rating, top 10 in pace.
Yeah.
Offensively, they've actually been, middle of the road, not bad. So they do make for a good matchup for the opponent. There's no doubt about that. Claxton's a stud. And the thing that you have to love about Claxton is, unlike some of these other guys that, and of course he's a center, but that just rely on scoring, he can get it done in kind of a variety of ways, whether it's through stocks, points. He's not a prolific scorer, but you see some of these big double doubles out there where he's got like 4 stocks and 4 assists. That adds up pretty quickly. So I like Claxton. I get that ownership is pretty high right now for an 11 gamer, but he looks good.
This whole game is wild. I mean, we have 30+% ownership to Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas. We're in the 20s for Cam Johnson. We have, call it 15 for Mikal Bridges, Royce O'Neal, and Spencer Dinwiddie. Not much coming in for Dennis Smith Jr., and we are not going to be getting to a $5,800 Ben Simmons. But no Dorian Finney-Smith in this one. We still don't have Day'Ron Sharpe. There's just a lot to like here. I'm slightly over on Cam Thomas, neutral on Cam Johnson, over on Lonnie Walker, over on Mikal Bridges, neutral on Claxton, way over on Royce O'Neal at 4K power forward only. I mean, we have Royce O'Neal in for 23 minutes, which feels to me a little light with no Dorian Finney-Smith in, but I don't have a great feel for what they're going to do. They could just go to more Trendon Watford too. But I kind of like Royce O'Neal as a value option. Look, if Chris Dunn is going to get any love, then I'll happily take Royce O'Neal too. And then Dinwiddie, I have 15% of him. The Brooklyn team is just set up where you've got this mild pace up spot against Utah. You got a defense that isn't all that interesting. They're consolidating their rotation. They don't really mess around. These guys just get big minutes. And their pricing is sort of stabilized at a point where it's a little bit lower than you would expect. So I don't really have any one individual guy that I like more than the others. Now we are showing Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, and Cam Johnson as like next level negative leverage plays. I still find them pretty interesting to get to. Maybe you don't want all 3 of them in the same lineup, but leave one out and you're going to be fine. Us having Cam Johnson 5% optimal, 22% owned, that feels aggressive for a $5,100 small forward, power forward guy, but maybe that's me. I took his over on Prize Picks today, so maybe I'm just a Cam Johnson dude. Check out those picks on the Odd Shopper channel or in my Twitter. I'm just going to get to a lot of Brooklyn. I have more than the field does. Right now, the field is at 140% in the aggregate. I'm at 190. The guy that I want the most of, if we're being honest, is Mikal Bridges, 7,200, shooting guard, small forward. We saw him go crazy last week. It is a little bit worse for him if Cam Thomas is getting more minutes. The more Cam Thomas plays, the worse it's going to be for Bridges. But I like that price matchup and position more than I like anything else for Brooklyn. But they all look good.
It is kind of a weird spot, though, just looking at like Dorian Finney-Smith being out, because on one hand, you're talking about a guy that's a 13% usage rate player. I think he has like a 6% assist rate or something on the season. Not good.
No.
But does his absence significantly benefit anyone outside of just minutes?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Not really sure how it would, right?
No, it's just you're filling in playing time. And it's weird because Cam Johnson didn't play last time out, but Dorian Finney-Smith did. So you're kind of just like flip-flopping the 2 of those dudes and adding Ben Simmons. And I don't really know what they're going to do with that.
Well, I guess the only difference here would be that if you're talking about, yeah, I don't know. I guess you're right. I guess you're just you're just flipping them. What difference does it really make?
Here's the difference between what I did this morning and what the site did, and I don't know what the right answer is. They went to a very tight 8-man rotation last time out. If you want to say that they're going to add in Simmons, that makes 9. I don't think they're going to go to a 10th. We have 10. I only have 9, and that's causing me to get to a little bit more Brooklyn, and what I think is causing a little bit of that negative leverage. I don't know what the right answer is at this point, but like Trendon Watford hasn't been in the rotation. It's possible that he just jumps in now that Dorian Finney-Smith is gone and Day'Ron Sharpe is out. Or is Ben Simmons just the backup center to Nick Claxton and they go to 9 guys? I don't have a great feel for it, but there's something different for Brooklyn today that could be a little bit weirder if they keep it at 9.
How many did you say you think it'll be right now?
I have it at 9. We have 10.
Okay.
I gave Ben Simmons all of the backup center run to Nick Claxton, and then I only have 7 other dudes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was only 2 games ago where you had all of these guys in, unless I'm missing somebody. It was 8. So if you're saying if you add Ben Simmons in, there's your 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we are adding Ben Simmons in. Like, that is absolutely happening.
For sure.
So that's why
You're
I don't see
Trendon
Watford. I don't see Trendon Watford getting minutes if we're adding Ben Simmons in.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Anybody else from this one? A lot going on with Brooklyn.
I think Royce O'Neal is like the best sort of option at value, but I think his ownership is going to come up later on in the day.
Phoenix at Miami, 229.5 point total. Miami 4-point home favorites. So here's another one where we don't have the injury report because Phoenix is playing their second of a back-to-back. But if Yusuf Nurkic ends up sitting this game, what do we get? 29 from Eubanks yesterday?
Yeah, and he's then the only guy that you're playing to is Eubanks.
Yeah.
There's no optimal, like 3% optimal to Bradley Beal is the high mark. 3% ownership to Bradley Beal is the high mark. They're the least owned team on the slate. But if we do get Nurkic out, then Drew Eubanks in however many minutes you want to say he plays, 27, 28, whatever you go to, he's just going to be a good center value play, no matter how you project it, as long as he's the starter.
Do you think he'd be in the closing lineup if it's a close game? Because they pulled everybody.
Probably not.
They
doesn't
pulled
have to
everybody
be
with 2 minutes left last game, and he still got 29.
He doesn't have to be. Like, is he more likely than most? Yeah. But they could kind of go to like a KD at the 5 situation there, depending on who's
Gordon.
at the 4.
Yeah. Well, I'm not Eric. Well, no, who would it be?
Be Beal, Allen, Booker, Durant, and then insert whoever you want here. Eric Gordon, Keita Bates-Diop,
yeah,
Metu. It's like a 5, but not a 5.
Right. He does. Yeah, you're right. He could close.
Yeah.
But right, you're not projecting the guy for 31 minutes in a spot.
No, you're not.
And also, even if Nurkic does sit, the problem with Eubanks is he's going to rely. They're not going to be drawing things up for Drew Eubanks out there. So
not so much.
You're going to be relying on just all peripheral stats, which is doable at center. Yeah. It's fine.
Like, he's not going to be popular at 4,500. He goes from unowned to 5 to 10% owned.
Right. Exactly. There's really not much for Phoenix. If Nurkic plays, there's a good chance you just get nothing at all from the Suns.
Right. I will have nothing from the Suns like I do pretty much every other night.
What about from the Miami Heat?
Kind of the same. Like, these guys are unowned. Highest owned dude is Bam at 7%. Highest optimal guy is either Hero or Kevin Love, also at 7%. They're starting to get guys back. Like, Jaquez came back last time out. So kind of a tricky team right now. I think you're really only looking at 4 names. It's Bam Adebayo, it's Jimmy Butler, it's Terry Rozier, and it's Tyler Hero. If you're asking me to pick one guy out of this team, it's Tyler Hero. 6,700 point guard, shooting guard, fantasy point per minute dude. But I also think he's like appropriately owned at 5%. I don't find this game to be all that appealing. It's the number 22 team in pace and the number 30 team in pace. It's just kind of meh. There's a lot of meh on this one, but the ownership is telling you the same story. It's not like these are my just general opinions. 5% aggregate ownership to the Suns is the lowest number on the slate. Miami's at 21, not exactly pulling a ton of ownership. As usual, if you want to play Bam or Butler or Rozier or Hero, that's all fine, but none of these guys stand out.
Tell you what isn't meh. Sleeper right now has got the $500 first match deposit bonus, Josh.
Not meh at all. Very whatever the opposite of meh is. It's
and my guess too, though, is that you are going, we saw last week with the championship games for NFL and just the NBA in general, they were giving out like nonstop discounted squares every single day. I
Yeah.
feel like it was like 2 or 3 a day in NBA, and then there was the Lamar Jackson free square, Christian McCaffrey. They were just loading them up, dude. More than really any other pick'em site has been lately, which is huge.
Taking it like you want to capitalize on these spots as so much as you can. Like when they're giving you all of these opportunities for free squares and things, hit every single one of them. All you're doing is costing yourself money by letting them go. It's the simplest thing you can do to bring down your costs to play on any one of these sites.
The link's in the description. It's in chat too. But yeah, it's up to $500 first match deposit bonus. Um, and if you only have 20 bucks, it doesn't matter. Like you're still doubling that no matter what it is. It's just up to 500. So if you decided that you wanted to kind of take some of the ad on prize picks or underdog, right? And you're playing there, you're like, all right, well, I'm not ripping through my entire bankroll on these plays every single day. Things are looking good over there. And you just kind of want to redistribute a little bit of that. Make sure you get these bonuses, which you should absolutely do. Links down there in the description and in chat, up to $500 first match deposit bonus. You can up to 100x your payouts. And another thing that I don't know why people don't talk about this enough, Josh, let me get on to the next game, but they have the dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
So like on a traditional sports book, you can go in and you can bet double doubles, triple doubles, like anytime touchdown scores, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
On a lot of these pick'em sites, you can't do that because it's just taking spots with essentially standard juice for the most part. Like you were saying, the 7.5 assists on Brunson, you wouldn't find that. Maybe you'd find it at 8, but you're not going to find that at 7.5 on prize picks or on underdog. They have their own great aspects to them. But the thing about sleeper is you can go in and grab a triple double. And with the dynamic pricing, now there's multipliers involved. So they're essentially like converting sportsbook odds into pick'em format. So now you can actually take double double, triple doubles, and stuff where it's not standard like minus 110, 115, 120 juice. That's a huge deal when you're trying to build out these 8-leg lineups. Now, you got to be careful for sure, because sometimes you can get beat up. My recommendation, use the odd shopper tool or just check to see what traditional odds are across sports books. But that's a huge advantage to be able to be like, you know what? I really love this spot today and it's plus 250 elsewhere, but I can still get the 2.5x multiplier on sleeper. That's a cool feature there. I think it's going to be streamlined or adopted across a lot of these pick'em sites sooner than later.
It's a great feature. It makes things a lot easier and lets people do more of what they're really trying to do.
Yeah. So take advantage of the bonus. Take advantage of all of these free squares and discounted squares they've been doing. Link down there in the description. Jordan threw it in the chat. Sleeper, sponsor of the NBA Strategy Show. Let's talk about the Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies. All right. So here's one. Grizzlies second of a back-to-back today as well. Now, the Kings are, what's the spread on this game? 8-point favorites on the road.
Yes.
Against an already depleted skeleton crew of a Grizzlies team playing their second of a back-to-back. Not a ton of ownership going here, though. Like Kevin Huerter, Barnes, Keegan Murray, 8%, 6%, and 5% respectively. There's not a ton happening with the Kings, but I do want to kind of dig into this a little bit with you, only because it's, you know, they're big favorites on the road. The total's sitting at 225 because Memphis isn't playing that fast. Are there spots that we can get to for the Kings and feel good about today?
No, but like kinda. I mean, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis are both unowned today.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm not surprised by those things. All the other pay up options around them look better, but like, would you be surprised if Sabonis just gives Memphis the business tonight? I certainly wouldn't.
We have positive leverage on both of them in the boom bust tool.
Yeah, but like as I look at it, I don't really see any. It looks like the ownership to me. You know, highest owned guy is Kevin Huerter at 8%. Highest optimal guy is Keegan Murray at 6%. This is just another game that's telling us the same thing that we've seen for so many teams. If you want to play one of the starters, you can. Most of those guys just look like 4% optimal type dudes. If that's your stand, so be it. I don't have that stand for Sacramento. I have 2 shares of Malik Monk. That's all I've got here. And his minutes, he played 19 minutes the past 2 games, so I don't even feel great there.
Memphis is ugly, man. When you take a really bad basketball team, we'll say, really bad banged up basketball team, and then you run out all of these newly minted starters because they get thrust into the starting lineup or thrust into bigger roles. And then you do that over the span of several weeks. All of their price points begin to come up, and then they become wildly unappealing.
Yeah.
I think Luke Kennard's still questionable, right? Well, not questionable, but we don't know.
We have him in, I have him out. So that will be a distinctive piece here, but we should know that by the time we get to 8.
I mean, the only guy worth talking about, maybe you actually have some other guys, maybe Santi Aldama or somebody else, but Jaren Jackson's still pretty good. And this guy can rack up monster statistics across the board, including the blocks, including the threes. Jaren Jackson is 8K plus though. So as far as like the minutes played, let's say this game does stay close, can we get 35 out of him? And just the overall usage on a team that has a bunch of nobodies. What are you doing with Jaren Jackson?
Putting him in 42% of my lineups right now.
Okay. Yeah. He looks good. Nobody else looks good for Memphis though. Or is there anyone else that stands out?
I think GG Jackson looks great at 4,200, given everything else I've seen us talk about for the first couple games. I have him in for 25 minutes.
Okay.
Again, I have no Luke Kennard in. Small forward, power forward, 4,200. He's a fantasy point per minute guy so far this season. Now that is on like 67% true shooting or something, but I don't have him. So I don't have him projected like that. He's in 36% of my lineups right now because he's 1% owned. And that is like the craziest leverage play for me to get. But again, that's all happening because of Luke Kennard. Either way, I think GG Jackson looks like an interesting option, even if Luke Kennard is in, just because we don't have a ton of value yet. But the priority to me, no matter what happens with Luke Kennard, is getting to Jaren Jackson, who sees a giant usage bump when all of these guys are off the floor. I have him at 28 real points, and that is basically what his points prop is. I'm surprised he's only 17% owned. He's one of my top plays of the day. The only downside is that there's another power forward center that looks a little bit better than him, but I'd rather just play them both.
Yeah, he's now, to be fair, what you were saying, I just want to be clear on this. If Luke Kennard does play, it's really just Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, I would imagine I would only have I'd have 5% random of Santi Aldama, GG Jackson, Vince Williams. Like those guys can all show up just like I've been talking about for these other guys. I find Jaren Jackson to be a priority today.
Yeah, he looks fantastic in this spot. By the way, appreciate all of you hanging out, and all of you who have hit that thumbs up already. 120, Josh, not bad. We only asked once at the top of the show.
I like it.
People coming through today. Appreciate you guys. Goes a long way.
It's a shame we don't have a show on after this. I could get us way more likes.
What do we say? What am I missing?
Oh yeah, you don't know my gimmick, do you?
What's your gimmick?
So chat, plug your ears. Don't ruin this. I let everybody know on the deeper dive now that if they don't hit the like button, the screen goes black for Live Before Lock and they're not able to watch the show. It works.
Do you set like a threshold?
No. I just tell you, like, if you haven't hit the like button yet, you're not going to be able to participate in the Live Before Lock show that's coming up next.
So what? You're just telling them like their screen personally gets blacked out if they don't hit the thumbs up?
Yeah. I had Jordan kill the screen for a couple seconds too in the middle of last week. Yeah.
It's a strong idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Just put up a graphic like, apparently you didn't hit like. Do it now to see the stream.
Good. I like. We've had some. We've had
just. I mean, think about the knowledge base in the 2,500 people that are in that deeper dive. Tricking 600 or 700 of them is pretty simple.
my guess is that they're just doing it because they appreciate the creativity behind the gimmick. You don't actually think that people assume their screens are going to go black, do you?
I'm guessing at least 10% of the people listening.
No.
I was going to say a number higher than that.
Think that if you don't hit the thumbs up, the stream gets shut off.
Yeah. Why not? Like, it's a premium feature of the stream. They have no idea. I'm very confident.
Can you give me an example of how?
Why is this guy calling me a dinosaur? Tyrannosaurus Josh.
Does he mean tyrannous?
Yeah.
Tyrannical?
Yeah. It looked like when I first looked at it, I thought he called me a dinosaur. I knew
So
where he
get
was going with it.
so pitch this to me. How Anthony Marcus said I actually fell for that twice. uh can you just pitch to me how you do this? Like
I
let
think,
me just hear, pretend you're on the show. I want to
oh,
see how
500 people in here, 145 likes. You guys know the drill. We got a show coming up after this. And if you want to still be able to see that show, if you do not hit the like button, you won't be able to see it. It just goes away. Black screen. It's the only way that you can unlock our future content is by hitting the like button.
see. That's I knew there was going to be something there that sticks. You have to have something that sticks. The only way you can unlock our future content. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I've been
Yeah.
doing this a while. That's very good.
Yeah.
If you didn't hit that last part, I don't think it's as effective. But the only way to unlock our future content is to hit that thumbs up. That's pretty good.
It is. So
That's
you can
pretty
use that
good.
one for football moving forward next year for whatever comes up after the deeper dive.
I may steal it.
It's so
I may
good,
steal
man. Look, I really got down to thinking, like, I wonder how we can get those likes up. And I was like, well, this makes sense. Most of chat is not going to understand what I'm saying, so I should be able to just trick these people immediately into hitting the like button. Worked perfectly.
I have far more affection for our viewers than you do, but it works.
Why do you imply that I have no affection for the viewers? I'm just a realistic evaluator of their smarts. That doesn't mean I don't like them, but I'm well aware of the, brain
Mike
power going on.
Mike Parrish, we are simple creatures. Well, it works.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
Can you bold things in chat? Because simple needs like
Dude, this is crazy. A lot
something.
of people are agreeing with. They're saying like, "Yeah, it got me. It got me. It's good." I'm telling you, it's the only way to unlock our future. That is seals the deal right there.
Yeah.
Seals it. Oh,
You're welcome.
right. Minnesota, OKC.
Minnesota, OKC. I got another one that's not all that interesting.
Shit, man, we just got like 45 more likes right there.
Yeah. Jordan, just turn the screen black.
You remember when I had Jacob do the screen when I did the Manscaped read?
Yes. It's good, man. It's good stuff.
That's fun stuff.
Shout
We
out
have fun
Manscaped.
here. Minnesota, OKC. Let's talk about this one. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, 2.5-point dogs against yeah, maybe I'm misremembering. And I didn't follow NBA nearly as closely early in the season, just with like a million NFL games every day, right? Or throughout the week. Has OKC had any injuries all year? It feels like every single time they're on a slate, they're the clean bill of health from top to bottom. Meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies have 5 healthy guys on the roster.
Yeah, they've been very healthy this year. It's been good for OKC.
Yeah, it feels that way for sure. Certain teams are just snake bit, man. It's the way it goes. Mike Conley's questionable with that nagging hamstring. We have him at 11% if he plays. Aside from that, though, we have Nasri with a little bit of positive leverage. You benefited from early Karl Anthony Towns foul trouble last game.
Yeah.
Fortunately, because that could have been an ugly one for Nasri, and I did have a little bit of him in that slate. But what are we doing with the Grizzlies? I'm sorry, with the Timberwolves right now?
Same as basically everything else, rotating through their starters and calling it a day. 9.8% optimal rate to Naz Reid is the highest of anybody here. Pretty much everybody just sitting in that 5, 6, 7% range, whether that's Edwards, McDaniels, Towns, Gobert. It's just another team that is not a priority for this slate. And another team that I don't have a ton of. Like the most I have of anybody is 10% of Jaden McDaniels, 8% of Mike Conley, 6 of Edwards. There's just not any stands here. When you have 22 teams on a slate, a lot of the slate is just going to become like, I don't really have it or I don't really see it. And I'm in agreement with most of what we're doing here. I don't really have it and I don't really see it.
Yeah, it's true. There's not a lot here. Someone said 96K subs. What more do you want? Preferably 4,000 of more additional.
I don't, I mean, 99.6 million.
Brother, that's a crazy way to look at life. That's a
Yeah.
crazy way of being like, things aren't bad, but I don't want them to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think old Warren B ever felt that way.
I love that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger in paradise.
Yes, exactly. Well, RIP there.
Yeah, he kicked it, huh? But
Warren Buffett has my favorite quote ever.
which one? Because he has many good. So does what was it? Who? Charlie Munger was his protege, right?
I don't know.
What's the quote?
You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant.
That's not bad.
Yeah, he wrote that in the 1985 shareholder letter to Berkshire Hathaway. No matter how great the talent or efforts, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant.
But you sure can try.
Yeah. You can be Tyreek Hill. That dude's trying to have a baby in a month. He doesn't believe it. Because every time I look, I open up Twitter and all of a sudden one of his gals shit out another kid.
Crazy how that happens, huh? And yeah, Dwayne, we were talking about the one chip challenge the other day. Jordan actually pulled that for us. Jordan, you really should put some of that on the screen at some point. For anyone that missed it, I promise you would enjoy it.
Good.
It's funny too, because like you could tell, was that during COVID? Like during not early COVID, but I think it was like 21 where there was still a lot of restrictions everywhere.
No, it had to be before
wait,
COVID. I was at my old
before,
house.
Was it
It's
before
before COVID.
COVID?
Yeah. Yeah. I was at my old house.
Oh, it was before.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. We moved April 2020 and I did that at my old house. So
Yeah,
I can't tell you when it was after that, but
that's probably etched and scarred into your memory for sure.
I will never forget it. And that's like one of those, like, where you were days.
That's what I mean. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not saying it's 9/11 here, but it's definitely like, hey, I'll
it was
never
worse for
forget.
me.
Moving on. Anything
Well,
you like?
That's true.
Anything? Yes, like physically for you, that was worse. I still remember though, 9/11, walking through the cafeteria, looking up at the screen, seeing the lunch ladies crying, and then seeing the second plane hit as I was walking through the cafeteria to health class. You never forget those type of things.
We watched the second one hit in my British literature class. Crazy. I was in the hallway when I was walking up the stairs in the hallway. I don't remember who told me that a plane hit one of the towers. I obviously didn't care in any way that it happened. It meant absolutely nothing to me. I didn't understand the gravity. Like, to me at that point, it's just like an accident. Like, why would I care about some accident that happened anywhere else on the planet?
Oh, you meant you didn't know what was actually going on.
No, at that point in time, like, it's just a plane hit one of the towers. And it's just like, what? Great. Like, what do you want me to do with this?
Also, at no point did anyone expect for them to collapse.
No, I mean, like, this was just me walking up a set of stairs on my way to my next class. Then when we started watching it, it was like, oh, holy shit, this is insane.
Yeah, like this.
I was 16 or 17. Like, it's not like I had great opinions on life then.
Right. I was in 9th grade. Yeah, it was crazy, man. It's weird that I'll be telling my kids about that. Like they'll just read about it.
Yeah.
And judging by the way our education system moves now, most of them will have no idea what it is. Ever.
It's gonna be interesting to see how that's taught. Or I mean, I guess that's taught now, but like, what is the context behind like why it happened and the war that we went to and things? Like, I assume that just gets taught fully incorrect in schools.
I hope I'm just wrong, and I hope I'm just wrong. And like I see too much stuff on social media, kind of highlighting the stupidity of our youth, and it's not actually like that. It's not actually as bad as it appears. But I'm pessimistic that that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know. I trust none of it matters to me. The education system is off my radar moving forward. So good luck.
Good. Okay.
Godspeed.
Dude, I'm gonna soon enough, I'm gonna teach my daughter, I want her rattling off every president in order. You know what I mean? Like I want her to be able to know cool stuff about our history.
So you want to send her off to be like Ben's assistant for a couple weeks?
Oh, dude, I could hit you with all 45 presidents in order right now. Let's talk about the OKC Thunder.
No, you couldn't.
Yes, I could.
No, you couldn't.
All right, let's do the Thunder, and then
Absolutely not. Am I letting you get the Thunder and then you pull up that bullshit?
I'll close my eyes.
Hands behind your head right now and start going.
Only if chat wants me to. I won't do it if they don't want me to do it.
Oh yeah, I already see you clicking chat. I don't trust anything now.
Dude, I will turn the other way. I'm just saying I can do it.
You know chat wants you to do this.
All right, well, I don't want to lose viewers.
But start doing it and stop fucking belly aching.
All right. Are you going to pull them up?
Well, I already know them.
No, you don't. In order?
Yes. You're free to go.
Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, but JQA. Jackson, Van Buren. Okay, so after Martin Van Buren was Harrison, who died after he gave a speech because he was old. He never even he was done. After him came John Tyler, and they all hated him because he's the first vice president who became president and said, "Fuck you, I'm being president." Right? After him was Polk. Yeah, Polk. And then it was Zachary Taylor. He died because he ate some bad cherries. After Zachary Taylor was Millard Fillmore, then Franklin Pierce, then James Buchanan, widely known as the worst president ever. Then, of course, Lincoln, right? He died. Andrew Johnson. And then it was Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, he got killed, Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Harrison again, then Cleveland was president again. You want me to keep going? And then,
I don't believe any of this is happening in real life right now.
Have I been wrong yet?
No, that's why I don't believe you.
I know. I love American history. I love this stuff. Man. So what did I say? Cleveland, then McKinley, he got killed. Roosevelt, big fat fuck, Taft. And then Woodrow Wilson. Then I always mess this one up. He was the real corrupt guy. Warren Harding. Then Calvin Coolidge. Then Herbert Hoover. Then FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy. Who came in after Kennedy?
That's your problem, not mine.
Let me skip him. I'll come back to it. Taking up too much time. Kennedy. And then who was it? Then Nixon, then Ford, then Carter, then Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. I always forget. I always forget who it was.
What a loser. Couldn't do it.
Oh man. Somebody told me to tap out. Lyndon B. Johnson. There you go. In order. Got him.
Lyndon B. Johnson is not the current president of the United States.
Lyndon B. Johnson right after Kennedy.
Well, you didn't go in order.
1-2 said forgetting LBJ. Dude, for some reason I have a mental block on Lyndon B. Johnson, but I got it. We got it.
He's a fake LBJ. The real LBJ plays for the Lakers, who we're about to talk about.
Not bad though, huh?
I don't believe that you did it, if I'm being honest with you.
No, I could give you historical facts on all of these presidents, dude.
Jordan, what do you think? Do you think he was reading that?
I think Jordan knows I know this because he knows I love this stuff.
I don't think he knew all that. There's no way.
Thank you. There we go. That's all I need.
Are you
Majority
kidding
rules. Zip it.
Are you kidding me? Okay, whatever. Whatever.
No, I don't trust it at all.
I clearly
I did not have the same confidence there as when Ben is like, here are all the state capitals of the countries in whatever the fuck. I trust him wholeheartedly.
All right. You're right. I was looking at a screen while rattling off facts about Zachary Taylor dying from cherries. You're right. Or
I mean, that's the part that I believe that you know, not
or
his
Roosevelt
name.
getting shot, but his glasses case blocked it with a speech, and then he said it takes more.
Now
than
you're just telling me plot points from.
I'm telling you that all right. Let's talk about OKC. Anything you actually like from OKC?
You're giving me Yellowstone plots, man. I watched Kevin Costner get shot in the chest.
I can hit them all in order, and I just did it.
Nonsense. I don't believe it. Jordan, I want to poll up in chat. Did Laffy cheat?
I don't know why anyone would think I cheated. That's such a bizarre thing to say.
It's so simple to think of why you cheated. We just watched you do it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We'll see. Chat will let you know. You're such a proponent of chat. We'll see how well they like you.
What are you doing with the OKC Thunder? I'm telling you, we all know I didn't cheat. Pretty obvious. What are you doing with the OKC Thunder?
Nothing at all. They are awful. 4% ownership to SGA is the high mark. Highest owned is 4% to Shea. 4.9 optimal rate to Shea as well as the highest point. I have 2 shares of Shea. Add OKC to like every other team. They're like the Boston version of everything else. There's not. I don't know how you get there with any sort of priority. Oh, chat. The problem here now is that chat is answering just to hate me. That's where it gets tricky.
Well, no, because I clearly did it. Whatever. We're not doing it. Anyway, exactly. Marco said, I doubt he cheated because he was pausing and thinking.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He knows what to do. He's not just going to rattle them all off straight down the line. He's got to add dramatic effect.
All right. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Marcos. Thank you, Dante. Thank you, Tim.
Why are we treating Laffy like he's George Washington, man? This man can tell a lie.
And that's also not true that George didn't tell a lie.
Right. Oh, it's not. I've gone through my entire life assuming George Washington was the most truthful man ever. And then I watched Shane Gillis's special and found out some other things about him.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Washington. We got to get moving here. Washington. And by the way, thank you for bearing with us there, my friend. Also, thank you for all of the kind supporters in chat. Thank you. Which, by the way,
why do you know that? By the way, let's say, for example, what you just did was real, which it isn't.
Do you want to?
Let's just say it was.
Do you honestly?
Why do you know that?
Why do I know it?
Yeah.
Truthfully, I saw the Shane Gillis and Louis C.K. did the podcast, the President's Podcast together.
Yeah.
And like, it just kind of reinvigorated my interest in our history. So I just was like, this is awesome stuff, man. And I just started digging in and listening to stuff.
You just Rain Man the list and just started like reading it before you went to bed every night to make sure you got it in order?
No, I mean, it didn't take that long, but yeah. Yeah. Plus it's only 45. Well, 46. It's technically 45 because Cleveland was twice.
There's only one that matters. And that's the Don.
Yo, he might be twice. He might join old Grover Cleveland as a 2-time non-consecutive. Wouldn't that be something?
He's had a lot of non-somethings in his life that sound like consecutive.
Sean Geezy, what's up, Sean? Dude, Sean, this might be the biggest Hall of Fame. He might be the most recurring Hall of Fame. He's like Grover Cleveland times 48 for our Hall of Fame.
Not a soul on the planet that knows what that means.
Grover Cleveland was $10 super chat. No way he cheated. He was adding commentary in terms of what led to the next president, and at each turn, GOAT. Sean, I knew I loved you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you.
He just called you one of the Muppet babies.
Nah, Sean's just a stand-up guy. Washington and San Antonio. Don't be salty because I did what you thought I couldn't do.
Why did they gave Grover Cleveland a city too? Oh my God. At least they gave he must have been like I guess that was like the best they could do for him. They gave him Cleveland, Ohio.
I think he was also married to like a 22-year-old.
Okay. That's
So I mean,
smart.
credit where credit's due, right?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that number is a good one, at least.
All right. So can you talk about Washington before we go
Yeah.
to San Antonio? Because I really want to get into the San Antonio side of this one, only because we just saw Wembanyama play 30 minutes and now things are about to get interesting. But
Yeah.
on Washington, is there anything that stands out to you?
Not really. They look a little like this matchup, 29th in defense, 24th in defense, number 1 and number 2 in pace. You feel better getting to pieces of this game, but nobody's just jumping off the page. Kuzma's 8% optimal. Tyus Jones is 8% optimal. Daniel Gafford is 8% optimal. They would be the first 3 guys that I'm looking at. I don't see anybody that you want to go crazy getting to from Washington, but the game environment itself lends you to want to like have more shots or like more bites at the apple.
Yeah. Sports Wiz, does Laffy ever forget his wife's birthday or special dates? You have no excuses now. That's a problem. Could be Travis. Hey, Laffy, do you mess with Dan Carlin's hardcore history? Also, I don't think you cheated. Brother, super chats coming in just to say they don't think I cheated. These people.
It's in Canadian money. That's not even real legal tender.
I can name every Canadian prime minister in order too.
I couldn't name one.
I'm joking. I can't do that. Nor do I have interest.
I didn't.
Appreciate you,
No.
Travis. I do sometimes. Yeah, that's fun stuff. History's fun. More American history for me than anything else. What are we doing with San Antonio when it comes to Victor Wembanyama? Because
You're playing the living shit out of that dude.
35% right now.
Yeah, I have 58. I have him in for 30 minutes. We have 29 and a half. He's projected like Giannis, but he's 8,900. Like it's what are you supposed to do with something like that? He's just incorrectly priced. Victor Wembanyama over the past 30 days is at 1.86 fantasy points per minute. This is the simplest thing that you can do. What minutes limit, no minutes limit, it really doesn't matter. He's just one of the better plays today because he's facing Washington. He's basically a 1.85 guy today. That's a high, like, what do you have the projections in front of us? I can get to it quickly.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
We have
Go ahead.
We have Giannis at 58 and a quarter. We have Wemby at 54. We have AD at 54. Like Victor Wembanyama has the same positional designation, the same projection as Anthony Davis, but he's $1,100 cheaper. I don't know what you do to get away from this dude. As long as he is in today, he's by default, no matter what news we get, one of the best plays that you can get to and will be a huge priority for me. Play him aggressively.
You kind of have to, right? I mean, it's really tough not to want to get there. Not only has he seen his minutes increase, not only is he a monster per minute player, but he also has one of the best matchups in the world, like the second worst defense in basketball right now, and the team that plays at the fastest pace. How do you and sub 9K on DraftKings?
Yeah, it's there's no negative associated with him. It's 33% usage. It's a close to 20% assist rate. It's a 20% rebounding rate. It's probably a 20% block rate at this point too. Like
His
this guy's
block rate is ridiculous, dude.
It is. He's exceptional. He's exceptional. Anybody that's going to try to talk you out of Victor Wembanyama against the Wizards today, like there's not a single fact that you can bring to the table for this one where it makes sense. He's just awesome. He's going to be 10K once this minutes limit thing is done. By default.
Oh my God, yeah. Dude, are you kidding me? Yes. If Wembanyama was playing 35 minutes a night, like if he was playing legitimate starters minutes, he's
the best fantasy player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to extrapolate that across 35 minutes. Like I guess
here's why I say it, because as long as he has power forward eligibility, if he plays the same amount of minutes as Embiid, he's a better player than Embiid.
Yep. What about
Embiid is the competition here, but if he's center only, that changes things. If Wemby's center only, then you still feel better about Embiid.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Sohan, Devin Vassell, any other guys stand out? It is a good matchup.
Yeah. Vassell's 10% optimal. Sohan's just behind that, but 10% owned. Trey Jones is right around that mark as well. I think all three of those guys can be worked in. You just want to get pieces of this game because both of these teams are so bad defensively and they play so quick. There's so many possessions here. It all comes down to how are the offenses, because their offenses are both shit. 27th and 25th at dunks and threes. It's possible that all of these extra possessions and good defense, or like all of these extra possessions but bad defense, just leads you into missed shots. So that could just be a good thing for the bigs on these teams from a rebounding perspective. But I just kind of want a bunch of this game. The only guy I want all things for is Wemby.
Yeah. And it's some talk in chat about like his ceiling being limited and stuff. Well, you know, you're not, Giannis is 11-4. If Embiid was on this slate, he'd be 11-6. Doncic, of course, without Irving, we're going to get there, 11-8. Jokic against Milwaukee, 11-3. Sabonis, 10-2. SGA's north of 10K. I mean, honestly, if you're looking at SGA, who's, don't get me wrong, he's been fantastic, but at 10-1, I know he's playing fewer minutes, but on a per minute basis, Wembanyama's just been markedly better than almost anybody, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
If you're getting 30, who knows? Maybe he even plays like 31 minutes in a game like this. You have a tough time not wanting to do that against Washington. So, yeah, maybe he's not getting to 100 at a Joel Embiid or Luka Doncic style, but pretty good spot.
Yeah, like
good spot.
65 is your goal for Wemby today?
Yeah.
Like where you're like, okay, that dude's just in winning lineups.
Right.
I mean, that's not all that crazy.
Anything you like from the Lakers-Houston side of this next game? Lakers 1-point favorites, 230.5 point total here.
Highest owned guy on the Lakers is 6% to AD. He's also the highest optimal rate that we have at 8.5%. I have no problem getting to AD or LeBron, but like the moment you put AD in the lineup, you're like, okay, well, that's just a Wemby pivot. I'm going to pay up to be contrarian for this one. That's all you're doing here with the Lakers. There's no like 5 to 10% at most of anybody that you're looking for here.
Jalen Green coming off a fantastic game last time out. Really, really solid game last time we saw him.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 2 games out, right? Yeah, 2 games. 36 and 10, 28 minutes, ended up being a blowout. Would have been a much better game. He's coming in around 16%. What do you think about him and the rest of Houston?
Solid. Kind of just feels like every other team that we talked about that has like decent starters, very Boston adjacent. Like we have Jalen Green projected for 16% ownership. We also have him 5% optimal and a -10 leverage score. So what we're really looking at is in and around 5 to 10% optimal on Alperen Şengün, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Jabari Smith, and Jalen Green. I think like Fred VanVleet probably feels the best out of this one. Brooks is there, guard forward. You know, he's a 0.75 guy now, which isn't all that exciting, but you are getting the minutes and you are getting the positionality. But it looks so much like so many of these other teams where it's grab a starter if you want to. You can't prioritize any of them.
2 games to go. You ready? Do it.
Let's do it.
Oh, by the way, Sims All Access, Josh. People asked. The people asked. We answered. So, hey, I can only do, you know, one sport, Sims package, all the tools for one sport at a time. No longer. If you're looking to get access to every single sport for Sims, and it's not, by the way, this isn't just like football and basketball. Baseball's coming up, PGA, MMA, all of them. Link in the description and in chat. If you wanted to check, the Sims tool has been absolutely dominant lately. We had Tommy, who runs our written stuff, took down 113K last week. Steve, who was foundational in building the Sims tool, won the Millie last night on some of the craziest circumstances I've ever seen, dude.
Yeah.
Insane. Yeah. Like the kneel down cost him 0.3, but he won by 0.1. Didn't have McCaffrey, had a skinny stack Brock Purdy with Ayuk, and the guy behind him had McCaffrey, didn't have Purdy. McCaffrey didn't get the last 3 carries. Mitchell did to run the clock out and kill those timeouts that was insane, dude. I followed that down to the final second.
He didn't, apparently.
No? Did he go to sleep?
No, I guess his like kid was playing with his phone and stuff, so he didn't even know.
That's crazy.
I wouldn't want to know that shit.
No, I know.
He takes 2 extra steps back to take that kneel, and I throw myself off the top of my house.
Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yeah, for every sport. And here's the kicker though. If you decide you wanted to do this. If you're rocking the stochastic avatar, whether you already are or you want to, you're getting a huge discount every month in perpetuity, not just the first month. Every month that you have it, you're getting a massive discount. You'll see it. Click the link in the description or in chat if you're interested. And if you just wanted to check out the lineup generator for NBA, I know Josh, always talks about, like, he exalts the virtues of the NBA lineup generator for somebody that's maybe working with a smaller bankroll or playing fewer slates, fewer lineups. That's like the best entry level tool that you could possibly find.
It's the easiest thing for you to use, and it's the best thing that you're going to be able to use, because the nuts and bolts of it behind the scenes are, simulations and us grading out lineups for you. And then you're just a couple button clicks away from just having it and either, manually entering your 8 or 9 guys or just exporting it to CSV and importing it directly. The amount of time it takes you to get a lineup, like a high quality lineup out, like 30 seconds? You can't really beat that at all. You're not going to find anything better. And it's already been curated for you. That's the better part.
Yeah. And upload the CSV. It's optimized for mobile. You can get rid of the lineups you don't want, keep the ones you want, see all your exposures afterwards. Very cool stuff. Anyway, guys, either of those you're interested in, links in the description and in the chat. Let's talk about Orlando +4 against the Mavs, 229-point total here. We can kick it off with Orlando, but, obviously Kyrie Irving already being ruled out and having some questionable guys there makes that a unique circumstance once again for Dallas. On the Orlando side, though, I guess the only question mark here is the back-to-back. Does Markelle Fultz play?
Yeah, and I don't even know how much it's going to matter, other than you'll be a little bit more interested in getting to Jalen Suggs at 5,100. But if Fultz is in, this is the same story we've been telling. 6% optimal to Franz Wagner. 3.9% ownership to John Isaac. There's no love coming into Orlando. They're like, this isn't like a great pace matchup or anything. Good defensive matchup. Dallas isn't very great defensively, but Orlando's getting everybody back too. So you're seeing their rotations like stabilize again. I have 2 shares of Jalen Suggs, 2 shares of John Isaac. Unless we get Fultz out, that's the only way that you're going to find Orlando all that interesting.
All right. Well, what about with Irving out? Oh, and I should point out maybe some of it matters. Dante Exum's questionable. Derek Jones questionable. Dwight Powell questionable as well. But Kyrie Irving's already been ruled out. Luka Doncic, super expensive, but it's still Luka Doncic. And if you're paying for one of these guys, he tends to make a lot of sense, Josh. He's just so fucking good. Even last game, it's like, all right, 28 points coming off a 73-point game. Mind you, second of a back-to-back, but still dropped 76 because he had a 28, 10, 17 triple-double. Right? It's ridiculous.
Wish I could have got him for the other one,
The 73, 10, 7 game. Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah. What I didn't see was noted terrible betting expert, in quotes, Alex Caruso, just throwing out more utter garbage on a day-to-day basis. He was smashing the under on Luka. If I would have seen that, I would have immediately lock buttoned him, because that dude is death to anything good. Unfortunately, I didn't see it till after. So then I knew I was cooked.
He had the balls to run it back the very next day with under on Luka.
Yeah. Gonna step in shit eventually.
What do you I mean, just with Luka though, like I said, some of this injury news could affect other players.
Yeah.
But we already know what is or isn't impacting Luka, and Kyrie Irving's absence absolutely does. Best pay up option on the slate?
Absolutely. I got 28% right now. We haven't projected for 17% ownership. Even at 11.8, it's massive. It's massive everything. He runs the entire show for everything. Scoring, rebounding, assists. It's all Luka. And that's cool with me. He is the guy that I'm getting to as a payout. He's the only guy I'm getting to with any sort of volume as a payout, other than, Wemby at 8,900. The injury news will only open up value from Dallas. It's not going to change the output of Luka Doncic. With no Kyrie Irving, just get what you can.
Anything else? Or is this just a spot? Tune into the Deeper Dive Strategy Show. Wait, if there's any other news for Dallas.
It's like if Exum is out, you start bumping up guards. If, Maxey somehow ends up out, then you start bumping up, like Dwight Powell, who I think is actually probable for this one. None of it's good. None of it's good. But we need the news. Feel comfortable taking Luka, that's for sure.
Pretty simple, yeah. With Milwaukee, Man, it's funny how you look at Giannis now, 2% ownership. Damian Lillard certainly has an impact. I'm not saying he doesn't, but it was always like not even gonna
Dude,
lie.
1.8 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days for Giannis.
What's that?
1.8 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days for Giannis. 2% owned today.
And still 2% owned, yeah. The Kyrie Irving absence is going to move the needle quite a bit there. Wembanyama at 8,900 for sure. But yeah, like we pretend that Giannis has just kind of disappeared into the void. Guy's still pretty good.
Very, very. That said, I don't have any. I had a bunch on Friday. It didn't work out for me as my Luka pivot. Don't know what you do here. 6% ownership to Chris Middleton is the only guy getting any love. He's 7% optimal, 6,500 guard forward eligibility. But this is the number 28 team in pace in Denver. They're certainly not like a bad defensive team by any means. You're playing at elevation. Like I'm good not getting to Milwaukee. That's not to say that Giannis can't go out there and be Giannis, but it's really hard to spend 11-4 on Giannis when you can get the same projection for 8,900.
Exactly. Makes it difficult. And on the other side, you have Jokic, and Jokic is only pulling 8% today.
Yeah. Look, that's center only, tough to get to. Good matchup. Milwaukee plays very fast, and the defensive rating is not all that ideal. I actually have a lot of Denver. Got a pretty big stand on Aaron Gordon as a GPP option. Jamal Murray is 11% owned. I have 20. I'm over the field on Reggie Jackson. We are projecting Peyton Watson with 17% ownership. I ran away from that pretty quickly, just turned it into Reggie Jackson. But I like MPJ at 5% owned. I like getting to Denver here at home against Milwaukee in a really nice pace up spot. And I'm getting to the starters. It's 25 of Gordon, 20 of Murray, 15 of KCP, 15 of MPJ. Light on Jokic, but I'm not surprised by that. I find Denver to be very good as a late night hammer tonight because they're at home and because of this matchup against Milwaukee.
Could be Travis. Was this show supposed to be 1 hour? Wow.
I didn't know we were going to talk about presidents.
You asked for it, brother.
I didn't know you were going to cheat while you did it.
The people have spoken. The people have spoken.
I've seen the people speak before, so I understand.
Yeah, by the way, hit that thumbs up or the screen goes blank. Hey, by the way, dude, 228 likes.
They wanted to make sure they see the show after this.
You guys are the best, man. You guys are the best. We appreciate you for sure. This has been fun. We'll be back tomorrow talking basketball, 11 games. You're on with Eric, I think, tonight, right?
I am indeed.
And Greg and Matt, I think, live before a lot.
No idea.
Okay. Jordan says yes.
I only know what I do.
That's okay. Diablo Biscuit, I come for the sports talk and stay for the American history lessons. Hey, all right. Maybe last week it was sneezing while driving.
Yeah.
Try not to look like a bitch. And today, the president's what in the world will come next? Stick around tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern on the NBA Strategy Show. We'll see you there, folks. Peace.